Welcome to the Measurable Dimensions of Behavior section of the Measurement module. In this segment, you will learn about dimensions of behavior. Let's begin by watching the video, then I'll explain how we measure behaviors based on their dimensions. Here we go!
Bear.
Do you remember this video from before in other sections? We want to help Layla learn how to appropriately request for breaks instead of engaging in a tantrum. In order to teach this, we must first measure the level at which she is currently engaging in tantrums. The way in which we measure Layla's tantrums will help understand the behavior. For instance, we may measure the amount of times Layla tantrums, or maybe the duration of her tantruming. We could also look for the amount of time that passes after the therapist says bear to the moment Layla starts tantruming. Measuring her tantrums will allow us to create a plan of action to decrease her tantrums and help her express her needs instead. So, why is measurement so important? Behavior analysts measure behavior to answer questions. For example, how long does Layla tantrum? Now, we need to measure the behavior to know if we are effective in changing it. For example, we measured Layla's tantruming at the beginning of sessions. Layla used to tantrum for an average of 10 minutes. Since we have started the intervention, Layla's tantrums have decreased to only 1 minute. Since we measure the behavior, we are able to objectively determine if Layla's tantrums were decreasing in duration. And they did! Now that we have gone through the beginning of this example, let's look at how measurement helps us. Measurement helps us evaluate effects of intervention before, during, and after treatment. For example, Layla tantrumed on average of 10 minutes before intervention, decreased to 1 minute during intervention, and is now at 10 seconds after intervention. Measurement also helps us guide decision-making for the course of treatment. For example, Layla's tantrums have decreased to 1 minute since we have implemented our intervention. We will continue implementing since it seems to be working. However, if Layla's tantrums didn't decrease at all, the supervisor would need to revisit the course of treatment and make necessary changes in order to decrease tantruming. Lastly, measurement helps us prevent mistakes such as continuing ineffective treatments or discontinuing effective treatments. For example, continuing Layla's treatments even though the intervention didn't decrease her tantrums to lower than 10 minutes. If you thought we were having fun before, wait until we tell you what the measurable dimensions are. What are the measurable dimensions of behavior? Well, they're distinct features that can be measured. More specifically, behavior can be measured by count, by duration, or in relation to other events. Let's start by discussing count. Behavior can be counted. The definition of count is a simple tally of the number of occurrences of behavior. Let's look at some examples of this. You took 3 sips of coffee. Your client hit herself 2 times. Kim posed 5 times for new selfies. As you can see, we marked a simple tally and added the occurrences of the behavior. Now let's take a look at duration. The definition of duration is the amount of time in which a single instance of behavior occurs. For example, you exercise for 20 minutes. Your brother talks on the phone for 3 hours. Dylan engages in a tantrum for 30 seconds. As you can see, for these examples, we have measured behavior using time, so using seconds, minutes, or hours. Now, let's look at how we can measure behavior in relation to other events. For example, the traffic light turns green. It takes you 3 seconds to accelerate. Your mom tells your brother to clean his room. It takes him 5 minutes to start cleaning. Your alarm goes off. It takes you 1 second to turn the alarm off. As you can tell, there was an event that happened, like the alarm going off, and a behavior that occurred, like turning the alarm off. We can measure the amount of time between the event happening and a behavior beginning. So, remember, behavior can be counted. You yawned 4 times listening and reading these slides. Measured by duration, it took you 8 minutes to listen to this video and read these slides. Or measured in relation to other events. You sat down at your computer at 9 a.m., but opened Canvas for the first time 3 hours later. That concludes our review of dimensions of behavior. Please complete the checkpoint questions on Canvas to proceed to the next section of this module.